So without further ado, then 2 minutes of waiting, I'm going to hop right in to answering questions. So from the food and nutrition category of questions and information in general, the first one that I have placed here because it got me thinking about the wider sort of macro theme of food and nutrition overall is the question, do you recommend plant-based diets? And I generally do. I think that, and I, know that in general, more produce is better. And the more we can fill a plate or a bowl or a serving, with fruits and vegetables, the better we're going to feel. Now, does somebody need to be totally vegan, strictly vegetarian all of the time in order for this to be beneficial? No, but more plants is better is the theme. So typically what I recommend is to aim for 75% of any given meal to be produce. And produce means fruits and vegetables. And then we reserve a little bit of space for whatever else you might be having. So that could be protein that is plant-based or not plant-based. That could be grains and legumes. That could be treats. But if we have already, filled up 75% of our serving with fruits or vegetables, then that, does the job of limiting a protein intake to a reasonable amount, which is a smaller quantity, right? And then also reduces grains and legumes from being a super high percentage of the meal. And those are things that I also recommend. So we know that a super high protein diet is not ideal. And if you're interested in learning more about that specific topic, about the protein topic, then you can just look on my website, on our website for protein. And I had a very long conversation with Four Sigmatic. We talked for an hour about protein. They were launching their protein powders at the time. And we discussed how much you need, what kind you need, when, all the different sort of variables of protein intake. And at that same time, kind of leading up to that conversation, I had created a whole article and guide on how much do we need, what types do we need, what is the role of amino acids, all of the sort of breakdown of protein in general, for my own interest. And because it was such a common question at the time, and I wanted to really understand, as somebody who believes in a fairly low protein diet, which is not something that I made up. I follow the school of thought of some other people who believe that. What does the science say? And I linked to all the studies and gave you a sort of breakdown of, how large are you? What is your lifestyle? What does the science say? How much protein in grams per day? Based on your body weight, how much do you want to be having? So anyway, if you're surprised to hear me say, low protein, then check that out and make your own decision. But generally, I'm recommending a primarily plant-based diet that is can be supplemented with protein and grains and legumes at around 30% of any given meal. That of course fluctuates, but that's a nice general rule. The grains and legumes point is also interesting because I think a lot of people who are plant-based will eat a lot of, rice and beans, and that becomes a big part of the plate. And there's nothing wrong with grains and legumes. However, the short story is, eaten in excess when not prepared well, and especially in the form of flours, which is very common, right? So we get all kinds of flour, and it's gluten-free, but it's still a refined, processed grain, typically. Sometimes it's nuts as well. Those just generally piss off digestion, inflammation causing, upset absorption, cause all sorts of indigestive issues, destabilize blood sugar. So if it's a flour, I would recommend treating it as a sugar. And if it's grains and legumes that you have soaked or sprouted or, really prepared in a great way, then having those at a smaller quantity as opposed to 75% of the plate, right? Because that's already full of produce, then you will probably feel amazing fairly quickly. And this is something that I do with most of my clients and have been doing for many years. We do it in the 4-week health course as well. So if you're interested in doing like a 4-week journey with me, we start with nutrition in week 1. We go into actually maybe gut health first, nutrition, herbs, and then lifestyle. And this kind of elimination diet or adjustment of the baseline, is something that we do. So that's all to answer that question. Do I recommend a plant-based diet? So hopefully you can see the answer is yes, and. Oh, and then one other note that I would make there is, if you are having protein or you're having animal-based foods, if you're up for it, my favorite is really high-quality fish from a nutritional standpoint. That can be one of the most beneficial ingredients that we have if we're not fully vegetarian or fully vegan. All right. So next question is related to food allergies. And the question is, what herbs can we use for full nutrition? And this person said, I have severe food allergies. Herbs for nutrition, we would call those nourishing herbs. I have a bunch nearby. I wonder if I have any I could just grab for you. I do have one. I'm going to grab one for you. So, I thought this was red clover. This is raspberry leaf. So this is a raspberry leaf, which is not the most nourishing herb, but it's a good one. This one is also really good for menstrual cramps and muscle cramps in general, but this is still considered nourishing, high in vitamins and nutrients, high in magnesium, actually. So herbs for nutrition are cool because when we're using herbs, we are extracting a full spectrum of nutrients from them. And full spectrum of nutrients means we are getting, the whole plant in a bioavailable, which means absorbable form. So you're not taking an isolated extract that you have to worry about whether or not it's absorbing. You're taking something that is made in nature to work within itself and within your body in an ideal way. So one of the downsides of some of the supplements and vitamins that we take is that they are single isolated extracts that are concentrated to a great degree. And we kind of think, oh, more is more, right? But if we can get the full spectrum, then usually, almost always, it's working better for us. And that's why you see people recommend turmeric with curcumin or black pepper with curcumin to improve the absorbability or the bioavailability of it, or have these sort of pairings, because when you separate the curcumin from the turmeric, then you lose that full spectrum, the sort of container that allowed it to deliver its nutrition to you in a better way. So in terms of herbs for, nutrition, we call those nourishing herbs. And those are things that are high in vitamins and minerals. And examples of those would be nettle leaf, one of my absolute favorites that I know I have over here, but I won't go digging for it. Red clover, which is the flower of the red clover. Alfalfa, you could use raspberry leaf. Oat is very nourishing, and there are many others. So those are some examples. And so then what you would do with those is make a tea. It's the best way to use nourishing herbs. Just make a tea because then you're going to, again, extract that full spectrum of all the benefits, and then you can drink that tea every day. So in order to make a tea, you would use a jar like this, right? Or a pitcher. You guys all know my big, beautiful glass pitchers. I'll bring more props to the next one. So you would take a mason jar, for example, and fill up, the whole bottom with the herbs. Like fill up, maybe that's going to be like half of a cup of dried herbs, maybe, just give yourself a good bit on the bottom, like that much. And then pour tea hot water in, fill up the whole thing, right? And then let it steep overnight. Water break. Let it steep overnight or for like 6 hours. You want to give it multiple hours to let everything extract. So this is not a 5 to 7 minute steep. This is not a, quick little cup of tea. You want it to fully pull out, and nettle alone, for example, will turn that water super dark green, almost black. It's really beautiful. And then you strain the herbs, and you have, a quart of multivitamin, basically plant-based multivitamin that you can drink all day long. Put in some things that taste really good, and you have functional water, otherwise known as tea. So that's a way to work with herbs for nutrition, or nourishing herbs, as they're called. Now, the other part of this question was, I have severe food allergies. All of those herbs would be great, aside from they're unrelated to food allergies, right? But if there are lots and lots of food allergies, right? You're somebody who's allergic to many, many, many things, then it may be an issue with gut permeability, or something called zonulin, or the kind of integrity of the microbiome overall. So it's not that you're actually allergic to 30 things. It's that your gut is compromised, and therefore the tight gap junctions are open, or things are getting through. And when they get through, the first thing they hit is the immune system. And then what happens? The immune system becomes activated and triggers an allergic response. So that is why, gut health equals immune health. And there's also the nervous system, which is part of that whole process as well. So if you have lots and lots of food allergies, then the first thing you would want to look at is gut health, making sure your gut is in great condition. And then the other thing that's very helpful for food allergies is treating the immune system. And when we're treating the immune system, we want to work with herbs that are normalizing, or an herbalism term for immune support that is kind of balanced is an immune amphoteric, or you'll hear immune modulators or immune regulators, right? So these are herbs that are helping the immune system to be not too active, but active enough. It's not boosting it. You're not you're not sick and trying to fight something off and wanting an immune boosting herb. You're using something that is normalizing and stabilizing. Just like adaptogens work for our stress response, they're just like normalizing and stabilizing. These herbs are really good for the immune system. The amphoterics, the modulators, or the regulators, all kind of equivalent terms. And a best example of those is functional mushrooms. And I have this very good blend. Everything's just like right out of reach. Oh, can you see my glucose monitor? Isn't this fun? So I'm doing a test with this thing. It measures my blood glucose over time. So when I do that, that's what that is. Functional mushrooms. And functional mushrooms you can take in any form you want. So you can take them in a tincture form, right, which is just a liquid extract. You can take them in a powder form. You can brew them as tea, is less common. They don't taste as good, and you want them to be concentrated. You can eat them in gummy form. We have a bunch of functional mushrooms in our everyday endurance gummies. You can use them in capsules, whatever you want. Just get them from a good source. because functional mushrooms require a specific extraction process. I'm just writing down that we're talking about functional mushrooms. They need to be extracted in a specific way. So a lot of times there's a water extraction and an alcohol-based extraction, or at least like a double water extraction. Basically, we can't break down the chitin that mushrooms sort of cell walls are, so they need to be extracted. If you buy from a good brand, they'll be extracted and you'll be all the better for it and you don't have to worry about it. But if you have severe food allergies or any kind of allergies, seasonal, dander, dust, pet, whatever, consider functional mushrooms. Functional mushrooms are a supplement that I recommend as a sort of staple to almost everyone. There's not really an instance in which somebody shouldn't have them. It's just a matter of how many things do you want to be taking at any given time. So other things that I recommend as staples are probiotics, awesome food, obviously, digestive bitters, really helpful for digestion, absorption. They improve, everything that you're taking at any given time. What else? Vitamin D, if you know that you're low, which most people are. Magnesium. What else? We'll see. Not everybody needs adaptogens, not everybody needs nervines. But anyway, functional mushrooms are one of the pillars I recommend to most people. And another herb that can be helpful for immune system stabilization and allergies is astragalus. That's really nice. I'm trying to think if there's anything else immediately. We can leave it at that. But again, if you have allergies of any kind, make sure your gut's in great shape, and then consider your immune system health thereafter. Okay. So next question is, does food, and again, for those of you who are live, feel free to chat questions if you want. I will slow my roll and answer your questions first. You don't have to wait for me to finish anything before you send in questions. So the next question is, does cooking reduce the nutritional value of herbs? And that answer is mostly no. Mostly no. In some cases, yes, though. So many herbs, like mushrooms, for example, need to be cooked to be extracted. And the heat or the time is sort of part of that process, mostly the time. It's a low heat. Herbs that are extracted in alcohol, so they're in a tincture form like this, tend to be pretty stable. So a lot of times people will ask me, well, I have a tincture. Can I put it in my hot tea or will that ruin it? It's completely fine. Your tea is not hot enough to destabilize something like this. Tea is not hot enough to destabilize many things, to be honest. Now, if you're putting an ingredient, like an herbal ingredient, into hot water and then boiling it for a long period of time, that will evaporate some things and sort of denature some things. Sort of depends on what you're after, We'll lose a lot of volatile oils or things that evaporate and you can smell them, like essential oils are an example of that. And, then I think of putting powders in food and cooking with it. Generally, that is completely fine. And a lot of times the herbs or the supplements will say this is safe to cook with, or feel free to use our powder in a recipe. It's not going to be upset by that, right? So let's see here. And look, I would say if you are cooking with herbs or you're curious about cooking with herbs, do it because more herbs are more herbs in your life, and that's generally a great thing. Let's see. All right, we have a question that came in. Can you please talk about the herbs that you offer in your shop to regulate your blood sugar and how they work. Do you recommend changing the probiotics you take every month, or do you stick to the same ones? And can you talk about what you put in your travel salad? All right, Liz, you get answers to all of those. Those are fun. Let's see here. So Liz's first question is, can you please talk about the herbs that you offer in your shop to regulate your blood sugar and how they work? Yes. You know, I wish I had one to like show to you at this moment, because the reason I don't is because I just bought some more for myself from the shop. But let me pull them up in our shop. So the herbs, the supplement that Liz is referring to is by a company called Sugarbreak. And we carry 2 of them. Oh, I have one of theirs actually here, which is very fun. So this is a breath strip that Sugarbreak makes. It's kind of like a seaweed base, but there you go. Wait, did I say that wrong? Is it a seaweed base? I think it is. I mean, it's just green, looks green. It contains herbs that block the taste of sugar and help curb sugar cravings, and then give you minty breath. So one of their ingredients is a very cool ingredient called Gymnema, which helps to block sugar receptors on our tongue. So once I use this, things won't taste as sweet. It does the same for bitterness. And then it helps to stabilize our blood sugar over time. So the Sugarbreak supplements, we've got 2. So we have one that's called, it's a carb blocker, and one is a blood sugar support. And I'll talk about the blood sugar support primarily because this is the one that I love and it's a little bit more holistic. Maybe I'll talk about both. So if you look at this, and actually let me see if I can just chat this to you guys on YouTube so that you can see Sugarbreak supplement here. All right. So the ingredients on this are Gymnema, the herb that I just mentioned, which is a very cool herb. I actually just wrote a big article on it for a magazine. It'll be out soon. Gymnema, again, blocks sugar receptors on your tongue, blocks sugar receptors in other parts of the body. The effects last for about 90 minutes. It helps to minimize sugar cravings and the effects of sugar on the body. So it's stabilizing your blood sugar. And that's actually what, I'm measuring with this thing as well. So what is my blood sugar doing in response to different foods, different drink, different exercise, different sleep over time? So Gymnema does that. Fenugreek is another herb, great herb in this supplement. Fenugreek's the second ingredient. Fenugreek is used in a lot of different ways, but number 1, it's bitter. Bitters are all great for blood sugar. It's another benefit of using a digestive bitter. It helps stabilize your blood sugar. Take it before meals, gets your gastrointestinal, juices going. And then it also stabilizes your blood sugar so that when you eat your meal, your blood sugar goes like this, as opposed to when you eat your meal, your blood sugar goes like this. What we don't want is for blood sugar to spike and then drop below where it was before. Because your whole goal was like, I'm stable, I feel good, my body is not overproducing insulin, I'm not becoming insulin resistant, which leads to metabolic syndrome and diabetes. I'm eating foods that keep my blood sugar going like this throughout the day, right? But if we eat something like processed sugar or flour or low fiber foods, then we go like this, and then our body produces insulin. We go like this throughout the day, and our energy goes like this, and our mood goes like this, and our cravings go like this. So again, anything that we can do to stabilize blood sugar. I mean, if you've been following me for any amount of time, I talk about this all the time because it's so important for metabolism, body composition, energy, mood, cravings, and how we feel overall. For example, if my blood sugar starts going like this, I'll get a massive headache. It's like instant trigger. So many things can be affected by blood sugar instability. Focus, if you get brain foggy in the afternoon after you eat your lunch. So anyway, Gymnema, fenugreek are both helping to stabilize your blood sugar. Green tea, the Camellia sinensis, EGCG in this supplement is another one of those, and banaba leaf. In their carb blocker, it's similar. So what's happening is you're taking the carb blocker before carb heavy meals, and it's basically like front loading. You're getting, this sort of buffer so that when you eat that high carb meal, and I'll chat this too. Hopefully the links come through on the recording as well. We'll have to see. But anyway, they're there. So both of these supplements, what I'll do actually is I will link these supplements in the email or in the post when I deliver this video to you guys. So all those ingredients are super cool. They all help to stabilize blood sugar primarily, block sugar receptors, buffer sugar cravings, and I love them. So I will use the Sugarbreak Reduce, the blood sugar support, once a day, every day in the afternoon, or like in the midday, right after I take my lunch, because you do not want EG, CG on an empty stomach. Do not want to do that. And then the Stabilize, I use less often just because I don't tend to dive into super high carb meals that aren't stable. But you can use that one if you're going to go to a pizza party or something like that. Now, what does it mean to not dive into a carb heavy meal? Because I tend to promote a high carb, low fat diet. Those are my macros. I'm sure that will raise some questions. And Liz, I'll answer the rest of your questions right after I go on this tangent. To make a high carb meal stable, you want them to be slow carbs. So things like fruits primarily, or starches like squashes, sweet potatoes, yams, plantain, cassava, yuca, all that stuff. I love that stuff. Those are all very slow digesting. Berries that have skins and seeds are really slow digesting. You can pair those things with fiber. So in my morning smoothie bowl, or smoothie or whatever form of smoothie I'm having, there's always a ton of fiber. Chia seeds or flax seeds, acacia, psyllium. Oh, Liz, also I see your question over in the chat now. It looks like it's working. By the way, everybody, if you are having trouble leaving comments in the chat, make sure you are a subscriber on YouTube. I think is one of the parameters they require. Just follow or subscribe, and that'll let you in. So adding fiber, avoiding processed things, having a little protein as well can be helpful. And then looking for slow carbs are ways to eat carbohydrates and have your blood sugar go like this, as opposed to peaking and crashing. And if it weren't our first time, I would show you what my graph looks like from my sort of blood sugar monitor, but we've got enough windows going right now. I'm not going to introduce another at the moment. So let me hop back over here to Liz's question follow-up, which was, do you recommend changing your probiotics every month? Do you stick to the same ones that you recommended yesterday? So yesterday on Instagram, I posted a video about my new supplements that I just got, and one of those supplements was Metagenics Probiotics, which I love. And Liz wants to know if you should vary those. So it's a great idea to switch up your probiotics if you want to. The overall goal with probiotics is to consume a wide variety of really potent, or high quality probiotics. So you want quality and quantity, basically. And I don't change mine out every month, but I will change them out maybe seasonally or something like that. What I do to get my variety is just eat fermented food and eat it in all the different places. Eat it in restaurants, eat it when you travel, eat it, wherever you are in the world, because our body will keep beneficial strains of bacteria around for a very long time too, as long as they're beneficial. And they'll keep some non-beneficial bacteria around as well, but we want to keep the good guys. So I always recommend that people eat for a probiotic variety as well as supplement, unless you're like a fermentation pro and you're doing lots of that, but I don't know many people who are. Now, that said, If you're like, that's a lot, that's complicated, I can't really deal with that, then is it okay to just take one probiotic long-term? Yes. And then the last question, Liz asked, can you talk about what you put in your travel salad? Yes, I can. I'm actually going to send you a link to my travel salad recipe here. I'll put it in the chat, and I will also put it in the follow-ups for this video. And basically, so this is one recipe, which, there are many versions of it. Here we go. Give me 1 second. I'm going to chat this over, and I'll put it in the follow-up notes. So when you're making a travel salad, you want to start with a base that is very hearty, because if your base is like beautiful baby spinach, it's going to be water by the time you want to eat it, probably. So I use kale, I use broccoli, I use cauliflower, I use really hearty, sturdy, generally cruciferous things. Slaws, like cabbage slaw. I love a broccoli, like carrot shredded thing, but you want it to be hearty. And if you're like, yeah, but I don't want to eat like, raw kale, that's totally fine. Just massage it or marinate it or do whatever you need to do to like soften it. But still, those things will stay very sturdy, long term, meaning the day that you're going to eat your salad, because you're only going to need to make it last a day. And then it's nice to have a variety of textures. So I'll do like a kale base, or this last time I traveled, I used frozen broccoli, cauliflower, and peas that obviously like sauteed and heated up and made like crunchy and nice, but those were super sturdy. That was my base. And then it's really nice to have like squash or yams or something soft and kind of sweet and starchy, and it's a good texture flavor combination with your heartier greens. So I always do some kind of sweet potato, yam, plantain, squash, something like that. That can be roasted, that can be steamed, and then you can be as creative as you want. So you could put in a ton of chopped up raw vegetables. You could chop up fruit if you want. You could do nuts and seeds, anything. If you like avocado, or if you're having meat, you could put in, fish or chicken, seafood, like whatever you want. Now here's a couple notes. One, I am the person who will open a Tupperware on the airplane, I'm very sorry, and it will smell like broccoli. If you care about that kind of thing, aim for vegetables that don't smell a certain way. But I have to smell all the other people's foods that are not the type of food that I eat, so I don't actually have any problem with my vegetable smell. The other thing you can do is, if you don't want to like open it for the first time on the airplane, is just open it before you get on the airplane and like let it, air out a little bit. And then when you're on the airplane, it won't be quite as strong a scent. But it takes a little bit of like not caring, not giving a whatever about your neighbors if you are working with like seafood or cruciferous vegetables, right? Otherwise, you can stick to things that don't have a strong aroma. The other point is, know how long you're going to be traveling and consider what you put in there. So like if you're having seafood, you want to be eating it within a few hours, right? If you're like, I'm not going to get to eat this salad for 12 hours, don't put seafood in it. And then TSA cares about liquids. So if you dress your salad, then you need to make sure that there's no liquid in the bottom of the Tupperware. So drain it out, or make sure it's like a thick sauce. So I'll use a lot of like sauces as a marinade or a dressing instead. It's not a big concern, and again, before you get to security, just make sure you can look in your Tupperware, and like if there's a bunch of water sloshing around from a dressing, dump it out. Otherwise, TSA doesn't care what food you bring through. You can't bring through, obviously, like smoothies or yogurt or like, dips or like pastes, I guess. I don't know how to describe like a yogurt, consistency, but if it's just food, you're fine. If it's something that's like sort of a liquid, like a chia seed pudding or something like that, that's not going to fly. But salads can be all sorts of things. And that's what I do. I make a big hearty salad. I cram as much in there as I possibly can. I go for crunchy, soft, savory, sweet. I'll chop up dates. I'll put in fruit, whatever it is. Usually my travel salad lasts me for 2 meals because I can't eat all of it in one sitting. And I take it in my carry-on and I eat like a queen. And it's great. And sometimes my neighbor gives me a dirty look, but guess what? It's worth it. So hopefully that answers your question, Liz, about the travel salad. I really appreciate you asking. And then let's see, we have a follow-up question on the blood sugar supplements. So if you're having blood sugar problems, could you take both reduce and stabilize supplements or stick to one? You could absolutely take both. So what I would do is I would take the reduce as a daily, take it after food, because again, that green tea, EGCG, will make you feel very queasy otherwise, once a day, right? And then the stabilize is the carb blocker, and you could use that before carb heavy meals. And the other thing I would say is if you're having blood sugar problems, look at those meals and aim to reduce the glycemic load of those meals, because that's the cause, right? Or that's one of the causes. So using those herbs is going to help. But if the meal is really the issue, then we need to work there. So maybe, I don't know, Liz, if you've taken my 4-week course, but that could be something to consider too, because I talk about, a lot of food and stuff there. Or lots of resources on my site that are just totally free. And the other class, if you're interested in classes on this subject, the other one that could be really good is the metabolism class. Because I talk so much about herbs that help to stabilize blood sugar, support metabolic health. And metabolic health is, a direct precursor to diabetic health in a lot of cases, right? So you have metabolic syndrome, and PCOS is a precursor often to diabetes. So my metabolism class is another support option. And I will just write that down too, so I can send that to everybody in the follow-up notes. Metabolism class, 4-week course. And remember herbal bitters as well. Herbal bitters, we sell those in the shop as well. So those super, super good for stabilizing blood sugar. You can use them before meals. So just pretend these are bitters. These are almost bitters. They've got some green tea in them. These are a little bit more of a brain booster. Just like in your mouth or in your water 10 minutes before you eat. It's going to stabilize your blood sugar. You know what else works as an herbal bitter? Is these guys, which is why I made them, are herbal gummies, are digestionist herbal gummies. It's the point of these. They help with digestion, absorption, and they taste really good. Okay, every time I open these, I eat like 4, so let me not do that. Next question. I'm gonna send this link over to the group here. You can find 2 or 3 herbal bitters options in our online store there. Just search for bitters. Okay. Dana says, how often do you recommend switching up a supplement routine? Other than the staples you mentioned, how do you determine which herbs to take and how long to take them? Oh, $1 million questions. The second one's a $1 million question. All right. So how often do you recommend switching up your herbal or supplement routine? The answer to that is it depends. Just kidding. It does depend, but I feel like that's the answer to so many of these questions. What is, ask yourself, what is your supplement routine doing? So did you hit burnout and you talked to an herbalist and they gave you a bunch of herbs and you're taking those to get yourself back into a good place? Then the point at which you would vary your supplement routine is when you're in a better place. And you feel like maybe I don't need these, maybe I do, I don't know. I'm going to test it out, right? So you might vary your supplement routine if you have achieved some goal, or you think you've achieved some goal that you set when you started your supplement routine. If you are using supplements that are just like, I'm taking a multi, I'm taking my mushrooms, taking D, magnesium, I'm taking probiotics, should I change those? Well, the answer to that is, how do you feel? If you feel great, probably not. Sort of like saying, should I stop eating vegetables? Probably not. But should you eat different vegetables? Maybe, maybe. The point of a multivitamin is to sort of be the every vegetable, right? But I'm not a huge fan of multis. That'll be a topic for another day. I vary my supplement routine intuitively. So, well, intuitively or logically. So at some point, I'm like, what is it? Oh, I'm getting a lot of headaches. Why? And I look at my supplements and I'm like, oh, there's a ton of ginkgo and a ton of taurine, which is something that people who have a lot of migraines shouldn't have. So I'm like, well, I'm going to take all those supplements out. Or you learn something new. So I've been deep in the rabbit hole of something called cortisol steal, which is where your body steals sex hormones and turns them into cortisol to give you energy, but then you don't have the sex hormones that you need, usually estrogen. Other way around. Your body steals cortisol and turns it into, no, it's the original way. Sorry. This is what I get for like winging it. And so if your body needs more cortisol, for example, then you would, I'm like, okay, well, then you would supplement with licorice or ashwagandha to lower cortisol, or cordyceps to help support your energy expenditure, all kind of depending on where you are with your different levels. So, did you learn something new? Do you intuit that it's time to change? Has the season changed? So a lot of times I will use ashwagandha through all the busy seasons. And then in the summer, if I'm less busy, I might not use it. Just take a break. But then I use it, September through, I don't know, June again, so I took 2 months off. So with supplements, you don't have to switch it up per se, but just like your diet, it's a good idea to keep a constant kind of eye on, am I taking the best things for me now? You're going to change. Your life's going to change. Life circumstances are going to change. So do you need different things? There's also something great about just testing and learning. So periodically I'll just stop taking a supplement and see what happens. And then I might realize I don't like it anymore. I don't want it. I don't need it, or I miss it and I want it back, So there are lots of different cases for when you might change a supplement routine. Just kind of keep tabs on yourself, your environment, your needs, your progress, how you're feeling, what's working, what's not working, your budget, new information that you learn, all of that. Let's see. And thank you for that question. Oh, so then the second one, the $1 million question. Other than the staples, how do you determine which herbs to take and how long to take them? So what I usually recommend for that is this sort of where to start, right? And ask yourself, what do you want to work on? What do you need to work on? Are you struggling with anything? Are you curious about something? Are you, desperately in need of something? Like, start from your sort of need or want place, and then identify what body system is that? Is that your nervous system? Is it your circulatory system? Is it your brain? Is it your gut? Is it your musculoskeletal system? All of the musculoskeletal system, all of those different, systems. What is the system? And then, again, assuming you're doing this without an herbalist, because if you're working with an herbalist or a functional medicine practitioner, then they can just tell you what you need. Then you would say, okay, what is the category of herbs, or what what group of herbs works on that system. So if you're like, oh, it's my nervous system, then you would go to nervine herbs. And now you've just reduced the world of 30,000 medicinal plants to like 20 that are nervines. And you can work with those, and you can buy a blend that's got like 7 of them in it, right? You've got a nervine blend. And that's a very good place to start, right? So you're taking a nervine blend and you have all these, and maybe you love it. You're like, oh, cool. So I want to try one of these ingredients on its own. Or you're like, oh, I got my nervous system feels good now. I want to focus on my brain, and so you would go to nootropics. So again, ask yourself what your need or want is. This is very, 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 very important. Consider the cause of your symptoms, not the symptoms. So your symptoms might tell you where to start in your inquiry. I have a headache, or I have anxiety, or I have muscle pain, or I have insomnia. Try to get to the cause and then use the cause to lead you to the system that you're then going to treat. So if you're just treating the symptom, then it's Band-Aids, 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 and it's not helpful. If the cause is not something that herbs treat, like it's nutrition related, or it's about exercise or stress or, lifestyle stuff, work on that instead of taking a herb, because that is more important, right? So always trying to work at the cause level, always trying to work at the foundational level. If you know that it's, related to lack of exercise, just find a way to, work on that instead of taking an herb, unless you're like, well, I need more energy. And then the herb might be able to energize you to get more exercise. But again, just sort of work at that base level if you possibly can. And then how long to take the herbs is the same answer as the supplements. Take them as long as they are working for you. And that could be the rest of your life. Herbs are plants, vegetables are plants. These are all functional, natural foods and drinks and, consumables. There's not a reason to stop taking, a certain herb unless it is so strong that it's more of a medicine and you need to be careful with it, in which case you would know, hopefully, or you'd be told, or the bottle would say so. Otherwise, using herbs is just like using food, and many herbs are food, and many food ingredients are herbs. I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot more. That's a very good set of questions. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Liz. Caroline says, hi, any suggestions for how to recalibrate after a bout of parasites, amoebas specifically, while traveling, and subsequent antibiotic and acetaminophen use, gut health obviously, but also liver support? Yeah. And then one more quick question that I'm going to answer because it'll take me 2 seconds. Liz, the Metagenic probiotics, you can just get from Metagenics specifically through the link in my Instagram bio. Let me know if you need that link. Otherwise, we don't have a plan to put them back in the shop right now, but they're always available from Metagenics. And if anybody hasn't shopped from Metagenics, if you do so through me, you do get 20% off your first order, by the way. Just saying. Okay, Caroline. So this is great. So this will probably be our last question because it's a couple and it's a big one. And this is great because actually we spent today focused primarily on gut health, so nutrition and gut health, which is nice. So how to recalibrate after taking antibiotics, taking acetaminophen, taking any kind of, over-the-counter medication heavily because you were sick, you had COVID, parasites, any of these things. Super important. And I'm really glad that you're asking about that because a lot of people come to see me because something happened in the past. They took a bunch of antibiotics. That thing went away, and then all these other strange things happened, something else happened, and it all started with this like, yeah, I was on antibiotics for like a month or 10 days and then 10 days again, and like I didn't do a gut healing protocol afterward. Super, 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 super important to keep our gut in the best shape possible because it's such a central system, literally connected to our brain. connected to our nervous system, obviously connected to our whole digestive tract, including the urinary tract, connected to our immune system. So major, so major. So after you're on antibiotics or even a bunch of like Tylenol, so I took a bunch of Tylenol when I had COVID because I had a terrible fever, and afterward I was like straight to the gut healing protocol, and you're like, well, it's just Tylenol, it's just Advil. It makes a difference. It definitely affects your gut health. So take probiotics, eat probiotic foods. And Caroline, for you, I would recommend the Metagenics Acute Care, which is stronger and meant to help heal a gut that's compromised. So get it acute care, use it for, use it up, and then switch to something that's more like a lifestyle probiotic. Eat probiotic foods in all the different ways that you can, low sugar kombucha, fermented yogurts, kefir, whatever you're into. Just make sure that it's, not a bunch of sugar and that it's actually fermented. Kimchi, sauerkraut, miso. Eat at least 30 grams of fiber every day, ideally from vegetables and starchy vegetables, carby things that are slow and starchy, or supplement with acacia fiber or psyllium husk, which is a really good combination of fibers that are prebiotic. I think in our shop we have one called Metafiber prebiotic. You can search it in the shop. Prebiotic. See if it's in there, unless it's sold out. But yeah, you see prebiotic fiber, healthy gut. Oh, we got two. We have sea moss as well. That's the very cool one. So those are great for gut health. Also, you see some of our herbal coffees come up when you search prebiotic in the shop, because herbal coffees are made with dandelion root, chicory root, burdock root, ashwagandha root, mushrooms. All of those things are prebiotics as well. So you got probiotics, you got prebiotics, you're taking them and you're eating for them. And then if you're in an acute, kind of stage of healing, it could be a good idea to include something like glutamine. So Metagenics makes a supplement called Glutagenics, which I recommend to basically everybody after antibiotics. It's glutamine, aloe, and deglycerized licorice. So you get the licorice benefits without the cortisol action. Do a course of that to help heal your gut, and then you can stop taking it. You don't need to take it long term. You're just going to continue your fiber and your probiotics. You want to eat the best diet you possibly can. So triple down on really good food and avoid all of the flour, processed food, processed sugar. To your note about liver support, herbal coffee alternatives tend to be very good liver supports as well, because they are, again, dandelion, burdock. What's the other one I'm thinking of? Milk thistle. You don't always see that in herbal coffee, but those are really good ingredients for your liver health as well. So you're getting double duty there. When you eat a super clean diet, your liver doesn't have to do as much work. So you're giving your liver support just by eating well. Filter your water. Drink lots of water. Half your body weight in ounces of water every day. Use digestive bitters if you're having digestive discomfort. You don't have to use them for gut healing. They're not necessarily healing, but they help with digestion, absorption, and enzymatic action in the gut. So if you're if you feel like you're struggling with digestion, absorption, you're having gas, bloating, any of those things, then definitely include bitters. Bitters are phenomenal for the liver, though. So if you want to include those there, you can do that. Milk thistle is the one that is healing for the liver. Otherwise, dandelion, burdock, and some of those are just support its function. So if you feel like you might have done a little liver damage, then use some silymarin, which is the milk thistle extract. Otherwise, you can use an herbal coffee or just some dandelion, chicory, functional mushrooms, that kind of thing. Cleaning out the digestion with really good fiber and really good water and really good food is also supportive of the liver, because the liver is, pushing things, sort of cleaning your blood, right? Cleaning your system and pushing it into the digestive tract to be eliminated. And if you're backed up there, then that is going to be reabsorbed and your liver is going to have to do it again. So if you're working on digestive health, you're actually automatically supporting liver health and hormone balance because your liver is filtering hormones out of the blood. So there's that. We'll talk about hormones next time. Sex, stress, and sleep hormones next time. And that should be enough, Liz. I'm sorry, Caroline, not Liz. Do it for, at least 4 weeks. Guts take a while to come back, so be diligent. At least 4 weeks, sometimes many months, depending on how you're feeling. But it's really good that you're being proactive about this. We have 2 minutes left. Anybody else have any other questions? And while I wait for that, I'll just mention again, everybody who's watching this as a recording, the links that I've referenced, in the chat and that I've been sending to the group here, I will include in the post below this note or below this video so that you can access what we're talking about. This is so fun. It seems like it's working well for everybody. I love it. I really, let me just say this. I really appreciate your being here and doing this with me. Obviously, I've been doing, Ask the Herbalist on Instagram for a while, but it's important to be able to create a community in a place that is a little bit more contained and that is valuing my time differently. I want to do this for you, but it's obviously hard for me to do everything for free. So it really does mean a lot that you're invested in this on your own behalf, and then also on behalf of a way of thanking me for my time, which I appreciate. I really enjoy doing this, and I would love for it to last a really long time and for it to help a lot of you in any way that you need. So just want to say thank you again. So I'll answer this last question. Dana says, would this be a good protocol post ulcerative colitis flare-up? And yeah, actually, it would. Dana, let's talk about that more in the future too, because there are some specific herbs that can be helpful for ulcerative colitis. But for everybody, for you, Dana, and for everybody else, what I just listed as this sort of protocol for, in Caroline's case, for recovering from antibiotic use and parasites, this protocol it's a gut healing protocol. You can use at any point, at any time. If you feel like you want it preventatively, you need it, you just want to double down, or you're recovering from something, it applies to everyone. So I hope it serves you well. We're going to wrap up for today. Thank you again for being here. Thank you to everybody who's here live. Glad it worked. There's a lot of tech involved in this, but it seems to have worked out well. And thank you so much for everyone who's watching the recording. Share the word about this. Don't share the recording. I don't know if you can, but let's grow this community. If you like this, tell your friends, and we can just continue to have more and more of an experience here. And I will see you again next week. Thanks so much.